So with Stampin' Up, they do have their own die cutting machines that are different than the one that we had from Close to My Heart. I only have the small one. I got that as part of some rewards that I earned, and I decided I'd go ahead and get the small version. They do have a small version and a large or standard version. I will say that it's an okay. There's nothing wrong with it. I do have to say I do prefer my Close to My Heart die cutter, honestly. But I also have an electronic machine that I use, and I tend to use that one more than I use these manual machines. So just being transparent and honest here about what I use and what I would prefer to use. If I go to crops, I might take this one because it is nice and compact, and it can do a lot of different size dies. It can't do the bigger dies because it's not very wide, but it can do probably a good 80% of the dies that I would use at, you know, in any sort of situation. So I think it's good from that perspective. You do get plates with it. And this is a very different plating system than we had with Close to My Heart. Close to My Heart was really simple. It was 2 plates, and then we had a dial for tighter or looser, and we could do our embossing folders through it and our dies through it without having to do a sandwich per se. So this is going to be a little bit more to learn as far as using it for embossing folders. And the embossing folders, they do tell you exactly which plates to use. You need to use a 1 plate and a 3 plate. And that's for a standard embossing folder. There is a 4 plate if you have the 3D embossing folder, which is a lot of the embossing folders that we have now in the catalog. A majority of them are 3D, so you would have to use the plate 4. And again, this will not work on some of them because the new embossing folders are bigger, right? This is a 3D embossing folder. You can see we can't run it through. And even the metal plate 3D embossing folder, you would need to have the bigger machine, not the mini machine, to work with this. But if there was a smaller 3D embossing folder, you would use the 1 plate and the 4 plate. So it's nice that it's printed on there to help you with your sandwiches, so you don't have to keep trying to remember how those work. So for standard embossing or standard die cutting, you are going to use your 1 plate and you're going to use both of your 2 plates. And there is a bevel on these that on the 2 plates so that it can feed through the machine. And you're going to cut into 1 plate, and the other plate's going to be your top piece here. All right, so the other thing that I realized as I was working with the dies is that in Close to My Heart, we had a much larger white reveal around the images. And so lining up the images, whether you die cut first and then stamped, or you stamped and then die cut, was a little bit easier because you had a little bit more leeway on getting that stamp or that die placed correctly. With Stampin' Up, the white reveal is half the size of what we had with the Close to My Heart. And so you can use a MISTI or a stamping platform. I actually did try that, and I found that actually I wasn't as accurate with that either. And this is made the way I'm going to show you is made it much easier for me personally to make sure that I have a nice even white around my stamped images. All right, so what did I do? I'm going to go ahead and take the Cheerful Daisies. And what I've done is I have die cut out of the Cheerful Daisy die sets here. I have done it on a high contrast piece of cardstock, because most of the time I'm going to be stamping onto white. And so I want to be able to see the difference. If I did white on white, it would be just a little bit harder. And what I've done is I've die cut out on that piece of cardstock, and I've attached the die to the cardstock and to the die, and left a little bit of an overhang so that I can attach it to my white or my base. And what this allows me to do is create a hinge. By doing this, by giving enough reveal around it, I can create a hinge so that I can line up this die cutout with the image that I've stamped. And I can shift this around in such a way that I get the right reveal all the way around that stamped image. Then I can bring the die back down. It will sit inside of that cut image, and then I can put the washi tape down onto my paper and onto the stamped image, and then I can create my sandwich that will allow me to cut this out. So the sandwich is going to be the 1 plate, then the 2 plate, and the way that this works is you do need to offset this a little bit to have it cut or to have it feed through the machine correctly. And then you take your 2nd plate, and that can be even with your number 1 plate. And then you bring your machine down, put that to the side, you open it up, and then just make sure our sandwich is still good. Here we've got this, the number 2 plate is slightly back, and then the the 2nd 2 plate is going to go right on top, and we should be able to feed this through like so. So again, like I said, this is a, you know, it works just fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a nice compact size, which I like. But I do think that I prefer a couple of my other machines to this one. All right, so now that I have done that, I can take this off gently. Always want to be careful because sometimes washi tape can pull. But you can see I have a pretty decent reveal. I've done a pretty good job of keeping the white even. So do that one more time here. So again, create the hinge. Line this up with my daisy. Just make sure that I'm still in camera. We'll go ahead and pull this up a little bit so that maybe you can see it better. So I'm lining this up where I'm getting the white reveal the way that I like it, where I think it's pretty even. Once I've done that, then I can flip that back down, put down my washi tape. I can build my sandwich, which again, the beveled side is what's going to go in first. Well, it's beveled on both ends. So just so long as you have it offset, I think is the big thing. So the middle plate is offset slightly. Then we're going to bring in this and start it. Once I got it, oops, that's going to shift. I just saw it shift because my piece was out. So we'll go ahead and just do a little snipping here. Trim this up a little bit. There we go. Just see if this is still lined up, because I don't think it is anymore. Okay. Reline this up. Like so. All right. All right, let's run this through. Right. And again, if we take this all apart. And the nice thing about this is by doing it this way, I can reuse that washi tape. And again, my reveal is really clean and even all the way around on that daisy. So what I did from a storage perspective is that I'm just keeping these on the plastic case, using the washi tape to adhere them so that they kind of stay in place, and then I can just pick them up when I need them. So all of these are ones that would cut out any of the elements from the stamp set. I've created that, and then any additional ones, the only one I didn't do was this big one. Any of these additional ones that are additional dies will just sit on the magnetic sheet here. And that's the same with any of these dies. I'll just show you one more time using this the Sentimental Park. I've got those dies again here, and if I take this die and I line this up with that one, hopefully you can see I've got, again, a really clean and even reveal. And then when I fold it down, I can run that through my die cutting machine. All right, so that is a little demo of dies and stamps in the die cutting machine. All right, so embossing is our next topic. And so there's 3 different types of embossing that we can do through Stampin' Up. There's the heat embossing, which is using the Versamark pad, just like we've done in the past, and heat gun, and they even have a white pad like we had, our old White Daisy ink pad. They have a very similar white pigment pad that you can use as well, and they have embossing powders. So heat embossing with either metallics or basic colors we can get, as well as the heat gun and Versamark and refills for the Versamark, which we never had a refill for a Versamark in the past. So again, lots of options on the heat embossing side because we now have more embossing powders that we can use with the heat embossing. There's also texture paste is what we used to call it, but they just call it paste. And they have a matte finish paste and a shimmery white paste, as well as the palette knives, which you can get, and using the silicone craft sheet that I've shown in the past. So again, this is a tool that you can use for the paste, but I showed you how you could use it with ink. So this is sort of an all-purpose tool that you can use for any of the mixed media, including the paste. They have a huge selection of embossing folders. And there are different types of embossing folders. One of the things, though, that I've learned and that you need to think about is they haven't told you the size of these embossing folders. So you don't know, if you look at this page, it looks like they're all the same size, and they're not. And so that's really important. They've also indicated which ones are 3D. All these ones at the top here are all 3D. And then there's a hybrid type of embossing folder that is something that we've never had before. So again, size varies, right? We've got some big sizes. This is the swirly pattern, which is number 11 right here. So swirly. You can see that is a large embossing folder. Okay, this is not a tiny one. I don't even know what the dimensions are. Does it say? It says it's a 6 by 8.5 inch embossing folder, right? So it is quite large. Probably larger than anything that I've embossed with in the past. So that definitely is going to require a bigger die embossing machine than what I showed you earlier. So again, there's these larger sizes, right? This is one that's coming out in the new online exclusive release. And then you've got some square ones. So these are the timber and the exposed brick. So timber is, which one? This is exposed brick, number 8. So that's this one here. And these are square. And these are 6 by 6 embossing folders. And the timber one is number 12. So timber and brick and the swirly are all in this same section, and you would think that they're all the same size, and you can see that they are definitely not. 6x6, 6x8.5. So very, very different. So you need to go online to really see the size of these folders. And I would highly recommend that you read the more information online about them. And then the third size of embossing folder is sort of probably what most people say have standardly seen, which is these two, which is the cane weave and the metal plate. Those are the two that I have. And these are the 4.5 by 6 inch size embossing folders. So again, different sizes, 3 different sizes that we're dealing with. All right, hybrid is the last one that I wanted to highlight, and that's these ones down here. So there's 3 of them where you have an embossing folder and then you have a die set that will work in conjunction with an embossing folder. And these are super cool. When you use this embossing folder, you can use it just as is, again, and it's going to create, in this case, the sand dollars or the hearts or the words. But if you pair it with the die, this die is meant to fit into this embossing folder, and I can't remember which direction it went. I think it goes like that. It will lock into place in this embossing folder, just like that. This is locked into place on this embossing folder. It's not going to move unless I pop it off by accident, but it's not going to move. And you can run a piece of paper through this embossing folder, and it will actually emboss where you see the plates, and it will cut out those sand dollars. And so you will have an embossed piece of paper with that pattern, and it will cut it out for you. And that is just super cool, super different. That's the same with the hearts. The hearts will individually cut out, and then the words will individually cut out from this embossing folder die combination. And so, again, something really kind of unique and different, something I hadn't seen before. And so I've had fun playing with it with this particular stamp set, that's for sure. So anyway, those are the hybrid ones. And again, this particular one comes as a bundle. I showed you that earlier, where you can also get the stamp set that goes with it as well. All right, so that is our embossing components and how embossing works.